Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. Let's discuss about fatty acids, lipids, and coconut, and maybe banana too. This is a symbol of divine nature, and Divyank ratio is the center one, and is the second molecule of the plant, which is essential after carbohydrates. Let's start with descent of atoms or elements from the universal consciousness to the earth into the ocean. According to Rig Veda, all the gods and goddesses of Veda represent the various atom, element, molecules of nature. Indra, the king of God, is the rain god of water. With thunder, lightning, and rain, all the essential elements came from the cosmos to the ocean. Biological life started in the warm slime waters of the ocean to start with, and all the requirement of the cells started in the ocean. Life started as a unicellular organism, and we human beings are multicellular organisms. We have evolved over a period, and this process of further understanding elements to complete consciousness is from Sagar or Samudra Manthan or the primordial occasion. This is the essence of Rig Veda, and I do agree. Rig Veda talks of the universal consciousness in totality as different gods and goddesses, and the center is Agni, the fire element. Now come to the question of mineral kingdom is the first thing which appeared in the universal consciousness, and on the earth also from ocean to rise. Atom, element, molecule, compound, cells, tissues and organ system started and then led to perfect human being over a period from mineral kingdom. We can experience water, sodium, potassium, calcium and all the elements, particularly 14 essential atoms and elements within the human body with their compounds, and as a result we can understand the entire universal consciousness within the human body. That exactly is Vishwarup or Virat Rup, which is spoken about in Gita also very clearly. Now from that starts the genesis of biochemistry. The science of biochemistry evolved from the atom, element, molecules and organic compounds, inorganic to organic to the biochemistry thereafter. Synthesis of biochemical compounds in plants starts as such is the second step of evolution from mineral to plant kingdom. Now in the plant kingdom, as I told you, atom, element, molecule, compounds all put together to manufacture the things which are required for as the life evolves from plant kingdom to animal kingdom and then to further as a perfect human being as such. You are going to see entire minerals, plants, animals and the perfect human being in the process as such. Now come to the question of how the life started. It is not the egg which came first or the hen came first. The question is life started as small spores in the beginning which led to the formation of seed thereafter. This is the evolution which is understood very clearly. The first plant seed is created in this particular thing from sower to seeds. Now the science of spores is reproductive cell can develop into a new individual cell without fusion with another reproductive cell, that is spores. Spores thus differ from the gametes, which are reproductive cells that must fuse in pairs to give rise to the new individual spores. Male and female get together in reproductive organs as a sexual one. Asexual is from the same thing. Spores are agents of asexual reproduction, whereas gametes are sexual reproduction. Spores are produced by bacteria, fungi, algae and plants to start with, and then we have moved on to higher and higher levels of consciousness as we became from unicellular to multicellular organism, and as a result psychology also appeared. And of course the indwelling soul has made a difference in the perfect human being to be in tune with universal consciousness. Now this is a picture of how the beginning of spores to seed formation comes. I have already explained. This picture is enough as a reminder. You can go back and see that once again. Now the question of tree formation has been spoken in the form of Pingala as very clearly almost 2500 years ago. And you can see the sporing is from seed to green plant, as if there's a dichotomous division 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, and I would go up to 1024, which is the petals of Sahasrara Chakra, to be a perfect human being to understand that concept very, very clearly. Now come to the question of branches of the tree. As you know, the trunk is 1, first branches are 2, second branches are 3, fourth branches are 5, fifth are 8, sixth are 13 and 21. That is the Divyank number. Within 7 stages you come to the stage from 1 to 21, and that is what, and this picture is from internet done by somebody else. I am just trying to show how they have gone into observe things, which is the perfect in nature. Let's not take every tree into consideration. This is a divine design, and let's leave it at that. Now come to the question of photosynthesis, where the biological life actually started thereafter in carbohydrates, and then comes the plant kingdom. One thing which I want to make as a divine mathematics very, very clear, because we are talking of Divyank and Divyank ratio and Divyank sequence thereafter. Under the electron and under the compound microscope, we can see only 3 parts: cell membrane, cytoplasm and nucleus. But under electron microscope, we can see cell membrane is made of 7 parts, cytoplasm has 7 organelles, and as far as the nucleus is concerned, 7 parts. But there is one part in the cytoplasm very close to the nucleus, is centrosome, which is made of 2 centrioles. And when these separate, the 21 parts become 22. That is first stage of creation, and it is centrioles which come from centrosome is the one responsible for procreation in a living cell. Without centriosome or centrioles, there cannot be procreation. That is something which I want everybody to understand. It is not the nucleus, it is centrosome and centrioles. Now come to the question of oxygen. As I told you very clearly, sun is very powerful energy, and the first planet next to that is Mercury, and since there is a light directly close to that with a very short sphere, water or condensed water is converted into oxygen there. As a result, Mercury has got 42% oxygen, where Earth is away, and because of photosynthesis through the sun's light is able to convert water into this in plants, and we have 21% oxygen, whereas Venus and Mars continue to have 97% carbon dioxide. This is also something which I want everybody to realize. But on the Earth, because of the plants, and the certain plants like banyan tree or even aloe vera can produce oxygen even at night, and that's it. Now come to the question of synthesis of glucose. I have already explained, without understanding glucose we cannot understand lipids at all. There are 7 stages of photosynthesis, which I have seen: 6 carbons of carbon dioxide plus 6 molecules of water, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water put together, get together to form a fusion. And first you get a 6 carbon intermediate, then 6 into triose, the 3 carbon sugar, then comes to 6 glycate and 6 glycophosphate, 3 phosphate, and 5 into glycophosphate, 3 phosphate, and then ribose sugar. These are the 7 stages you can get carbon dioxide and water to be converted into glucose and oxygen thereafter, and that is what is there in glucose or carbohydrates as such. Now come to the question of fatty acid of the subject for the day. This is second biochemical of life, and that is important. You have the saturated fatty acid and unsaturated fatty acid. That is the picture which I am showing. Saturated and unsaturated, we are going to see what exactly is the difference. Now come to the question of some of the glucose in the cell is used for cellular respiration. And let me tell you, cellular respiration is found in all the cells including human beings, where glucose plus oxygen is used to convert into carbon dioxide and water. That is cellular respiration. Some glucose is converted into starch and stored in seed. That is what starch is, which is multi-glucose. Glucose plus glucose, glucose as maltose, this as a series is starch, is a polysaccharide of glucose, glucose and glucose only is starch. The third thing which comes to play a role, any remaining glucose is used to make lipids, proteins, carbohydrate for plant growth. That is the primarily something. It is the glucose which makes lipids, proteins and also accumulated in this for further growth, because plants also need glucose for growth as such. So these are the three things which are very clear, that proteins also come from glucose and lipids also from glucose. And once that is understood, we will be able to understand how we have evolved from methane to carbohydrate to lipids and then to protein, then to energy thereafter. Now comes to the question of fatty acid synthesis in plant, and these are the two pictures which I am talking about, and you can see the whole structure as such. Let me show you photosynthesis. Carbohydrates are synthesized first, lipids are synthesized next. Oxygen atoms are removed from the carbohydrate formula. Why? To add oxygen atom during beta oxidation. This is a statement which I want everyone. So number one, carbohydrates are formed first, glucose is formed, then subsequent for lipid, from glucose it is oxygen which is removed, and only 2 of oxygen is maintained, remaining is removed. Now carbohydrate is carbon plus H2O, hydrated carbon is 1, and depending upon the different types, 6 is hexagonal, 5 is pentagonal, etc. But in lipid that formula is not maintained. Carbon and H2 is maintained, O is reduced, is not O equivalent to C. C could be more, O is only 1, and then in structure will be 2. And once that is understood, then we will know why oxygen was removed and maintained to 2 levels in fatty acids, not more than that. But formula of carbon and hydrogen more or less in majority of things remains same, CH2. But there may be little difference in certain things which I am going to show you as we proceed. Now this is the structure of Kennedy pathway. Now let me tell you one thing very clearly. I am a scientist who understands divine mathematics, divine physics, divine chemistry and also divine biology and divine human being. And as a result, I am able to understand Ved, Upanishad, spirituality much better than spiritual people by and large. Without science and spirituality getting together, it is difficult to understand Ved, Upanishad at all, because they are full of science, and it is spiritual science, much more subtle. To understand that, you need the modern mathematics, modern physics, modern chemistry, modern biology and modern medical sciences to understand Ved, Upanishad very clearly. That is why I am saying it very clearly. So Kennedy pathway is one with lipid synthesis take place. This picture you can see leisurely as such to understand the different processes step by step. Now come to the question, the whole thing. Now one statement which I am making it, glucose, 1 gram of glucose can produce 4 kilocalories of energy, whereas fatty acids produce 2.25 times more energy than glucose, and proteins as such 9 kilocalories for 1 gram of fatty acid, whereas then is only 4, protein is also 4, and that is one thing very clear. And the different fatty acid formulas I have given. Lauric acid is C carbon 12 H24 O2, and lauric acid is what is found in majority in coconut. Let that be clear. Coconut has got maximum lauric acid 60% and is 12 carbons, 24 hydrogen and 2 of this. Then muriatic acid is 14, 28 and 2, and then palmitic is 16, 32, and this the formula is maintained. 18 is 36 and 2, 12, 14, 16, 18, then carbon 20, the acrylic acid 40 and 2. This formula you can see the same thing with the carbon, and this is more or less maintained. But linoleic acid, carbon is 18, hydrogen is reduced, even oleic acid is reduced. They are saturated and unsaturated. Once that is understood, everything is very, very clear. Now having understood this formula, now let's go to 10 stage beta oxidation of fatty acids. Now you can see the picture in the middle. Fatty acyl CO goes through the FAD to FDH as a Fuchs oxidation process, then go to the hydration, then again oxidation, then thiocrosis, and finally these are the 10 stages which are there very clearly, and once that is done we understand the 10 formulas very clearly. Now one more statement which I am making it very clear. Skeletal muscles use glucose primarily, but it is the cardiac muscles where fatty acid is used, not glucose. As a result, fatty acid from the second month of gestation to die, they continue to work continuously without any problem, because there is no pyruvic acid, lactic acid in the heart in a normal person at all, because it's used fatty acids to convert into ATP much more than that. So hearts use only fatty acids, cardiac muscles use only fatty acids, nothing other than that. That is also a point which I want to make it very clear, why nature has made a fatty acid with less amount of oxygen, so that you can use oxygen, produce more ATP to maintain the health, and so the heart does not get tired. It can has a synchronicity, it can do things systematically one by one. And once that kind of science is understood, only then you will have you could be like a walking talking encyclopedia, and that is the knowledge which I want for every student from school, college, university, research to publication, with the complete perfection of Divyank as such. Only then there will not be any confusion at all, because that will talk about things. But as far as the heart is concerned, all the functions, systolic, diastolic, main, is all with Divyank alone, and that's it. Now come to the question, lauric acid. I told you the coconut contains only lauric acid. It's a straight chain saturated fatty acid and medium chain fatty acids. It is a conjugate of a dodecanate. It derives from hydride of dodecane. Lauric acid is an inexpensive, non-toxic and safe to handle compound, often used in laboratory investigation, melting point, etc. and very useful fatty acid for human consumption is lauric acid, and that is coconut, and that is very, very useful, and it is non-toxic, inexpensive and easily available. Then comes the mystic acid. Mystic acid is a common saturated fatty acid with a molecular weight. This formula, its salts and esters are commonly referred as mystic, are tetradecutate, that is 12. The name of the acyl group derived from mysteric acid is mysterious or tetradecutate. Now this is where you can say some of the oils commonly used in India are from mysteric acid. Particularly, you can get so many black, red, yellow color salt as the oil as such. Mustard oil is a beautiful example of that. Mustard oil is into that. Palmic acid structure, it contains 16 carbon backbone. Palmic acid molecule formula contain this particular formula. There are 16 carbon, 32 carbon and 2 oxygen. Same formula as such. It's a molecular weight of 256 used in personal care products, and this. And palmic acid is being used, and it is also very useful, but more into thing rather than the consumption part. Coconut could be the first choice, then muriatic acid could be the second one as a mustard oil. Palmic acid could be least for external purpose, not for internal use. Now come to stearic acid, is a saturated of the 18 carbons. It's a name of a octadecoordinate and is a soft waxy solid with the formula of this, and triglyceride derived from 3 molecules of stearic acid is called stun, and I think this is more to go for triglyceride level, which is going to be used later at a late form. So I think the preference first, second, third, fourth goes like this, and I think this is where formula speaks volume, and they are saturated as such. Now comes to archaic acid, the C20 is also known as icosahexaenate. It is a saturated fatty acid with a 20 carbon chain. It is a minor constituent of caprese butter, perilla oil, peanut, corn oil and cocoa butter. These are the things at the 5th level. The salt and esters of arachnic acids are known as arachnides, derived from the Latin word peanut. So peanuts contain this particular thing very clearly, and I think that has been used. But let me tell you, peanut oil has got protein which is more acidic than other things. So this is not as good for acid thing, which could be like almonds or coconut by and large. Then comes to linoleic acid is now comes unsaturated. Carbon is 18, hydrogen is not 36, it is 30, and oxygen is 2. Linoleic acid is a type of naturally occurring fatty acid. It can refer to either to 2 octadiodeoxynitric acid or with an 18 carbon chain and 3 double bonds, which are found in cis system of a mixture of 2. And you can see the whole picture as such, you can see is unsaturated. Now come to the question, now saturated have got carbon single bond between 2 carbons, there is single bond, but unsaturated there is a 2 bond within 2 carbons. I think that is the difference which is there. Now come to the linoleic acid is carbon 18, 32 is not 36 and 2. It is an organic compound with a formula I have given. Both alkaline group are cistin and fatty are sometimes the 18 to this combination. A linoleic salt or ether of this particular acid, and this again you can see the whole structure as bonded to as unsaturated. Then linoleic acid is again unsaturated, is a chemical formula is not carbon 618 is not giving you hydrogen 36, it is 34 only. Is a chemical term oleic acid classified as monosaturated omega-9 fatty acid and abbreviated with a solid structure 18:1. This combination, let's not, you can leisurely as such, but this is the structure of the oleic acid which is very clear. Now comes to cut a fatty acid and hit a hard beta oxidation. This is a process which I talked about earlier. This is how through beta oxidation more ATP is produced in cardiac cells than skeletal cells. Once this is understood how the formula, you can read it leisurely and understand the whole the process which goes up there is there. Now come to the spiritual science, the divine nature, which I would like to explain as an Indian Brahman. An explanation why banana and coconut is used for prayers in India, because Indians are very scientific in the nature. If they use coconut and banana only for prayers, that means there must be a much more knowledge in this which stands out for the good of humanity by and large. Now come to the question of first thing, growth of coconut plugs and nuts. There is a divine design of nature, you can see same coconut as such is grown inside and grows up, and then flowers come and then again grow up and come back. This structure is very clear, how formation from the same coconut, and this coconut is not used. That's one point which I want to do. Coconut as such develops into the tree when it's soaked and develops from that. It is not used as a salt or seed from a fruit. This is a fruit, but its fruit as such grows, you don't take seeds from it. That kernel, everything develops into further, I think that is a beautiful part. So it is not consumed thing, it is a natural asset design with all the purity inside, which is phenomenal. Now come to the question of Divyank ratio, and let me make it very clear, the size of coconut which I have shown on both uncut and cut, both the structures are exactly Divyank. Let me put it this way, length and breadth in upper one is in Divyank ratio of 38.1966% and 61 etc. That is the length which I have shown in the particular Divyank triangle. But inside you can see kernel is 38.1 where the other husk is 61.8, and put together they become one. I think that speaks volume, like an egg. Hen egg has got the same structure, but size of hen egg may not be as into 1.61, but here it is exactly the same. I think that speaks why nature why Brahmins by and large chose coconut as the one to be given to the god as a prayer, I think is a phenomenal. And since there is divine mathematics, I think makes it all the more important. Now comes to this is the picture where this both are offered, and you can see the kulsh, you can see the coconut on top, you can see banana there, and you can see other plants, allowance, fruits and other things which are considered very auspicious. And I admire the scientific approach of these offerings to the god because they have a divine mathematics in it. That's what I want to try to explain, that Ved Upanishads have divine mathematics of Divyank, Divyank and Divyank alone, and you can see in this particular picture very clearly. Now come to the question of asexual creation of the plant. Without the seed they are grown under the ground, and seeds were created later. And this is a picture of banana which I make it very clear. You can see at the bottom, new plant is growing from inside, and then how it grows into milk part, and then there are flowers, there are fruits, and then the seeds, and further can grow from there. I think that is a phenomenal thing as example from spores to seeds through flower and fruits as such. Now there's something which I want to show it very clearly is that whole banana plant when it's cut has got only 10 layers, not 9 or 11, and once that is done, and more than 10 it doesn't grow, less than it is totally developed. But how it goes in 3 different layers is something which I am talking about. So you can see the divine mathematics, 10 stages in this, and also the 22 by 21 in the cell part, and then 10 stages. You literally see Divyank in this, but in the end you can see right inside the core, which will be the Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh put together as such. I think that is the beauty of Indian culture, our Brahminic culture. These are the perfect thing when we offer, when you should whatever we offer, I expect everyone to understand the science behind it. Don't be just logically, emotionally attached, because everything which Sanatana Dharma and Brahmins have given to the world is full of science, and that too spiritual science. And once that is understood, the prayer will also become more effective because it will make you understand and remember in your brain the perfect, and you could become walking, talking encyclopedia. And that exactly my point is. Now coming to this picture, I'm not going to talk about it. I think enough for the day. Thank you very much.